What's happening, everybody? Happy Tuesday. First things first, if you were here on Sunday, there were some technical audio issues. I believe, knock on wood, that I have that all fixed. So feel free to shout it out if you can't hear me. Let me know. But I tested the audio 20 times over the past 2 hours. Hopefully should be resolved. Apologies again for my lack of availability on Sunday due to technical problems, but I think they are fixed. In the event that they are, welcome to another episode. Welcome to another week. We've got Week 4 waivers today, so I will talk about some of the top options that are available, just a blanket level overview. If you have specific waiver questions that pertain to your league, just let me know, and we can get into them. And then, of course, any other questions that you may have that are not start-sit. I will take a look at start-sit questions, but I'm not going to probably give it a ton of thought just because we don't have practice reports and injury updates. Members, supers, obviously feel free to send what you would like, and I can take a look at it. If you are not a member and you do not send a super and you ask me a start-sit question on Tuesday, I may kindly ask you to come back on Thursday at the earliest and Saturday or Sunday at the latest to get better start-sit answers when we have practice reports and injury updates and all that good stuff. Not just as it pertains to the offense of the team or the player that you're looking at, but the defensive side as well. We can look at all angles better when we have practice reports and injury updates, which we will not receive, of course, until Wednesday at the earliest. Thursday Night Football aside. First of all, shout out to my members. What's going on, Greg? What's going on, Crumply Heads? What's going on, Xavier? I don't think I've seen you yet this year. Apologies if I missed you, but welcome in. I will get to all of your questions shortly. Let me quickly go over latest news. Injury fallout from Week 3. There's quite a few things to talk about. The subsequential potential waiver pickups that we might be looking at. Again, if I do not talk about a player that pertains to you, that a guy that you have your eye on for waivers, let me know, and I can consider your question. Also, for extra context, who is somebody that you would be dropping to potentially pick someone up, right? It generally, outside of being able to IR somebody who is out, you're going to have to make a drop. So let me know who is on the potential chopping block for you when it comes to making waiver decisions for your team for Week 4. Couple big injuries. CeeDee Lamb, of course. High ankle sprain. Not going on injured reserve as of yet, but is expected to miss at least a couple of weeks. Probably looking in the 2 to 4 range. A high ankle sprain can often be a 4 to 6 week injury. So, we'll see if CD can recover quickly, recover faster than, I guess, what the typical timeline is to return from a high ankle sprain. Obviously, a critical, brutal loss in the short term. And, of course, there's, now we have concerns of potential re-aggravation later in the season. And, it's early, but we have to start considering, are the Cowboys in their current state going to be in playoff contention in weeks 11, 12, 13, and therefore motivated to put CeeDee Lamb back on the field? You would hope so, but their defense is quite bad right now. They've got a lot to sort out on that side of the football. So if they are losing games, especially in CeeDee's absence, they may take their time with CeeDee coming back to the field. That makes for a sticky situation, depending on your situation with CeeDee, whether you like the rest of your team, or maybe you're maybe your depth is a little weak and maybe you need to look into making a move. Whatever your specific situation is, if you have CeeDee Lamb, we can talk about it. But obviously a significant downgrade for the Cowboys offense. Dak can be dropped in one quarterback leagues as far as I'm concerned. Yes, he will continue to throw. Yes, the volume will be there, but his ceiling is gone without his top weapon. George Pickens, I guess, gets a bump just by nature of a wide receiver one target share. Jake Ferguson caught like 75 passes week 3. We'll see what his volume looks like in week 4. But he figures to be a high-end tight end one in these next couple of weeks. So if you have him, he's just plug and play. Pickens is probably plug and play. And, you can start Javonte as a flex, but in one quarterback leagues, I would be dropping Dak if Justin Fields is out there because he missed week 3 due to a concussion. If Brock Purdy is out there, he's missed the past couple of weeks due to injury. If Matthew Stafford is out there, he doesn't put up huge numbers, but at least he has 2 elite wide receivers to throw the football to, so he can always kind of accidentally fall into a low-end QB1 week just by throwing the ball to Puka and Devontae Adams. Dak is droppable in at least the short term. If you have the Dak CeeDee stack and you want to hang on to Dak, sure, okay, fine. Just know that Dak is going to be a bit of a roster clogger in all likelihood for the next few weeks without CeeDee Lamb. Another veteran wide receiver expected to miss multiple weeks. Mike Evans came up limping with a hamstring injury in the Bucs Week 3 win over the Jets. Again, expected to miss multiple weeks. I don't know that we got a specific timeline for it with a soft tissue injury, especially one coming for Evans and his age 31 season. That could be a difficult timeline to try to predict and see when he comes back. Unfortunately for the Bucs, they were going to have probably their full complement of wide receivers. When I say probably, I mean possibly available this week with Chris Godwin's potential return to the lineup. He was initially eyeing a Week 5 return. Reports late last week indicated that both Godwin and left tackle Tristan Wirfs could return for Tampa Bay in Week 4. If they do, that is the boost that this team sorely needs, especially Wirfs. But, now Evans is down for the count, so they stay less than 100%. They stay less than 100% healthy on offense, do the Bucs. So, we're looking for alternate options for Mike Evans for the next couple of weeks as well. Egbuka is going to handle all of the work that he can. Chris Godwin will surely be eased in. Again, Jalen McMillan remains on IR, so Sterling Shepard becomes a guy on waivers, especially in 12 and 14 team leagues that start 3 wide receivers that you may want to take a look at. I don't know that I want to spend more than 6 to 7, 6 to 8, 7 or 8 fob bucks on him, but there's probably going to be some decent volume available for him at least this week, Week 4, in a home game against the Eagles. So. And that's going to be a game where you figure there could be some fireworks in that game. So Sterling Shepard on the waiver wire radar. I can't believe in the year 2025 Sterling Shepard is a name that we're talking about on waivers, but we are. So, if you need some depth at wide receiver, especially if you lost Mike Evans, or maybe you have Chris Godwin, but he doesn't quite make it back this week, that'll be telling. Practice reports will be telling. We don't have that information yet. It's an optimistic report from last week and nothing more. We'll see what happens. But Sterling Shepard, obviously on the wire, and in deeper leagues, this might be a shot in the dark, but maybe Rashad White. Obviously Bucky is not a member of this conversation, but on waivers, Rashad White maybe sees a little bit more volume. If you're looking for a desperation flex play in Week 4, hopefully you're not that desperate, but somebody's got to soak up targets for Tampa Bay in Mike Evans' absence, and especially if Chris Godwin needs another week to come back. And even if he is able to make his return this week, what type of Chris Godwin are we getting? So Sterling Shepard squarely in the radar for waivers this week. I don't know that he's my number 1 wide receiver target, but when your options are him or Tyquan Thornton or Trey Tucker, it's kind of like dealer's choice. Let's see. What else do we have in the form of injuries? Giants running back Tyrone Tracy with a shoulder injury is expected to miss 2 to 4 weeks. Cam Scatterbo took full advantage of Tracy's early exit from Sunday Night Football against the Kansas City Chiefs. He had a great game. I think he had 10 for 60 on the ground with a touchdown and had another 6 catches for 60 yards. So an all-around game for Scatterbo. Tyrone Tracy was not doing terribly before the injury. I think he had like 7 for 29 on the ground. Nothing to write home about, but not terrible either. Solid, decent contribution, especially given the matchup. The Chiefs are pretty good against the run. But Tracy, going to miss at least a few weeks here. Scatterbo was already looking like he might be taking this backfield over, and now we might just be getting a fast-tracked version of that, now that Tracy is on the shelf for at least the next 2 weeks. So we'll see what the Giants do there. The same Giants who announced that rookie Jackson Dart will start this week against the Los Angeles Chargers, just 3 games into the season. So we'll see how that goes for New York. Nevertheless, you figure they're going to run the ball as much as they can to protect their rookie quarterback. And Scatterbo, again, with 6 catches on Sunday night, proved he has some receiving chops as well. I mean, he proved that just last year at Arizona State with an excellent season, running and catching it. But, it translated. It carried over to the NFL as well. At least this past week it did. 6 catches for the rookie running back. So he's in the RB2 conversation until further notice, coming through with volume and receiving work. And with Tracy sidelined, Scatterbo firmly should be in starting lineups moving forward. Let's see. What else have I... Any other injuries? Terry McLaurin is uncertain to play week 4 after suffering a quad injury. I think I saw a report that he is going to be seeking multiple opinions. So, when you're seeking multiple opinions, that means you didn't like the first one that you heard. So, are we looking at a multi-week absence for Terry McLaurin? That is yet to be determined. We do not know the severity of this quad injury, at least not yet. I've not seen any new updates for Terry McLaurin. Terry was starting to maybe round a corner a little bit. He had a decent game for Washington, all things considered, against the Raiders in week 3. Now status uncertain for week 4. He may have been on your bench by now anyway, but he should probably firmly be on your bench for at least this week until we get any more updates about Terry McLaurin. Let's see. I'm trying to see. Oh my gosh. And then, of course, how could I forget? James Conner, the top waiver wire option this week. I mean, in shallow leagues, not deeper leagues. Of course, James Conner going down with an ankle injury, out for the season, unfortunately. Trey Benson steps into the RB1 role for Arizona. Presumably, Amari DeMercado will ascend to the RB2 role. Benson is a volume-based. I don't know that we can call him an RB2 just yet, but he's probably in that conversation now that Conner has no chance of coming back. Benson will assume lead back duties for the rest of the season. Benson's the type of player where if he is available in, let's say, 10-team leagues, or I know there's some folks out there who play some 8-team leagues, he might be available there. I mean, you could spend half your FOB. You could spend 60% of it if you had James Conner. Yeah, brutal loss for Arizona. Tough blow for James Conner, a veteran running back at this point with a nasty ankle injury. You hope for the best for him and that he can return to full strength eventually, hopefully as soon as next year. But being an older running back, that's obviously an uphill climb for Conner. Best of luck for him in his recovery and his rehabilitation. Trey Benson is next man up. I believe he's rostered in 60% of sleeper leagues, so you probably don't have a shot at him. But in the event that he is on waivers in your league, I I mean, is there another top waiver option this week? Just blanket statement in a vacuum. It has to be Trey Benson. You could spend 50% of your FOB. Again, you can go even higher than that if you had James Conner. Hopefully, if you drafted James Conner, you handcuffed him with Benson to begin with. But if you didn't, now's the time to splurge and unload, empty the clip to get Trey Benson. But I assume he is, in most leagues, he's not available. Another running back injury, this one might be more severe, is Najee Harris suffered a torn Achilles for the LA Chargers. Tough blow for Najee. He's had a weird offseason dating back to July. Had an eye injury, forced to miss a lot of training camp. Eventually ramped up, played sparingly in week 1. Looked like he was going to have a significant role in the offense, at least in the short term, for week 2. After Amari and Hampton had a lackluster pedestrian game week 2, Najee looked decent. Figured his opportunities were on the rise, only for, the freaking injury bug to claim yet another victim. Najee suffers a torn Achilles. I want nothing more to be wrong after significant injuries. Running backs have a really hard time coming back from Achilles injuries in general. It's not a guarantee that that their career is cooked after an Achilles injury, but the outlook isn't good. The odds aren't good. All the best to Najee. Again, hopefully his recovery goes as well as it possibly can, and he can get out there again after this year. He was only on a 1-year deal with LA, so you figure they'll move forward without him after the 2025 season. Maybe he latches on, Najee does somewhere else and can contribute, but that's anybody's guess. And and unfortunately doesn't help anybody for fantasy right now. Amari and Hampton had a nice game for the Chargers in a tough matchup against the Denver Broncos. He is locked into a bell cow role now for the rest of the season. They'll of course sign somebody, either elevate somebody from the practice squad or sign somebody outright. LA will, but it's Amari and Hampton and Hassan Haskins now as the Chargers running back depth. So if you're in a 14-team, I don't know about a 16-team league. Well, I guess I am, I don't know about a 12-team league if Hassan Haskins is worth a pickup. But deeper leagues, 14 teams, you can take a look at Hassan Haskins. 16-team leagues, he's probably even more viable there. He's not going to be anything more than a change of pace option and not anywhere probably close to as valuable as Najee Harris was, especially assuming the Chargers bring somebody else in. But wheels up on Amari and Hampton. If you traded for him, if you bought low, if you or if you held through a rough couple of first weeks, congrats. If you took him out of your starting lineup week 3, that's a bit of a bummer, but the silver lining is Hampton looks like a guy where it's like just plug him back in. And let's just watch the progression, the development over the rest of the season, the rest of his rookie campaign, as he takes on a bell cow workload for a very good Chargers offense. So he's in a good spot to, he should be a solid RB2 rest of season. But James Conner can safely be dropped. Najee Harris can safely be dropped, and then hopefully you have IR spots for the likes of CeeDee Lamb, Mike Evans, and Tyrone Tracy. I think those are the most recent injury updates. Justin Fields is not out of concussion protocol yet, so we'll see how his development is this week. Brock Purdy is supposed to practice this week, but I do not know that he's confirmed to play for San Francisco this Sunday. They could probably use him, though, because I believe Mac Jones picked up an injury filling in for Purdy this past week against Arizona. So they could use him. And then, of course, speaking of San Francisco, Arizona's opponent from week 3, we'll want to keep an eye on Jawan Jennings as well. He did not play week 3. Okay, let me quickly go over some thoughts as far as the waiver wire is concerned, and then I can get into everybody's questions. I already mentioned the top dog this week on the waiver wire is Trey Benson. Of course, he's probably already rostered in anywhere from 50 to 60% of leagues, depending on the platform. I don't know what we can expect from Trey Benson. This is going to be his first opportunity to be the team's RB1 since he was drafted last year. So, his time to shine is now. His time to prove that he can be a top dog is now. A top running back for his team is now. Like I said, half of your FOB, especially if you need running back help, hopefully you had him handcuffed if you were the person who had James Conner, but if you didn't and he's available, 60, 65%, 70, 65, 70. If you're 0-3 and you're a little feeling the heat, 65, 70% of your FOB. This is the guy for the rest of the year. And then while you're at it, throw $1 at Amari DeMercado just to not that we have any expectations of him, but just to cover your bases at this point. But Trey Benson, top dog if he's available. He may not be, but it's worth calling it out. Another running back, and I did put him on the graphic for today. Another running back that you could take a look at was, if he's available, and I think he's available in about 80% of leagues, is Woody Marks of the Houston Texans. I don't have a ton of conviction with Woody Marks, but Nick Chubb didn't look great. This Houston offense looks like it could be a problem all season long. Their offensive line in particular looks pretty bad. So I don't know how much we can possibly expect out of a rookie like Woody Marks in what is shaping up to be a bad season for Houston, one that needs to course correct itself quickly, but they may be spiraling out. But on the positive way to look at that is if things spiral out, they may move off of their veterans and give a longer extended look to their young guys. So that would be Woody Marks. And I believe he carved out a decent opportunity for himself in week 3. I'm double checking this. Let me double check Woody Marks from this past week. 48% of the snaps for Woody Marks in week 3. That is significantly higher than anything he received in week 1 or 2. He didn't really do anything with it, but the numbers were solid as far as the opportunities he did get. Woody, 6 carries, for 27 yards. That's 4.5 yards per carry. That's pretty good. And then 1 catch for 9 yards on 2 targets. So he did all right with the opportunities that he got. Obviously, he's nothing more than a bench stash right now, but Houston's pretty bad. And if things don't improve, what's the point of that? First of all, if things don't improve, then Joe Mixon already, that. Has anybody heard from Joe Mixon? Is he in the witness protection program at this point? He might be just gone for the year. So that's step 1. Step 2 is if they're completely out of it, they have no long-term ties or commitment to Nick Chubb. They should be looking to turn the page to 2026 and beyond. Again, if it spirals out. And even if it doesn't, they may find that Woody Marks is one of the pieces on the offense that gives them a spark. At least he's got the fresher legs compared to Nick Chubb. So that's a running back that's worth considering if you're looking for some running back depth on the waiver wire. But obviously, typically waiver wire depth at running back is pretty thin. Woody Marks would be the guy that I would keep an eye on, assuming Trey Benson is not available at the position. At wide receiver, like I mentioned earlier, Sterling Shepard for the Bucs. Mike Evans is going to miss a few weeks with the hamstring injury. Chris Godwin might be back week 4. It could take until week 5, and then who knows how long it's going to take for Godwin to get up to speed. He has missed, he hasn't played since week 8 or 9 of last year. And much of his off-season work was spent rehabilitating the ankle injury, so and therefore not doing football activities. So how long does it take for Godwin to get back up to speed? So Sterling Shepard is on the radar. Trey Tucker is on the radar for the Las Vegas Raiders. Radar, close enough. We're not expecting a 3-touchdown performance any single week again for any player. You don't project that stuff. But, they're struggling to run the ball right now, Vegas is. With a guy like Ashton Genty, they're going to make every effort, you would think, to fix that. But Brock Bowers is, I guess, less than 100% right now with the knee injury. Back-to-back kind of pedestrian weeks for Bowers, even though I think he is playing through the injury, so, at least he's out there. But outside of Bowers and Jacoby Myers, I mean, Jack Besh and Dante Thornton are rookies, right? A second-round pick and a fourth-round pick, and we can give them all the hype in the world during the offseason, and, we always are looking forward to what young players and rookies in particular can do once they get to the NFL, but very frequently and oftentimes they're not ready, especially ones that aren't first-round picks. So this part of the season is when teams are more likely to lean on their veterans. So Trey Tucker looks like a guy that, you could take a shot on, again, if you're needing some wide receiver help, if you lost CeeDee Lamb, if you lost Mike Evans, at least a dude that is an option for you that you can put on the bench for a couple of weeks. Don't have to spend much money on any one of these guys. Maybe Shepard is the dude that you spend the most fob on, especially if you have Mike Evans. Maybe he has the longest shelf life here, given we don't know how long Evans is going to be out for. But Shepard, Trey Tucker, Tyquan Thornton is also an option for the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't think we have a definitive answer on when Xavier Worthy is going to return from a dislocated shoulder. Obviously, we've got Rashee Rice still working his way back. Waiting to come back from the suspension. We've got 3 more weeks. He's eligible to return week 7, so we're still in a holding pattern on Rashee Rice. So if you need some immediate receiver help, Thornton might not be bad. As a deep shot, again, in deeper leagues. So Tyquan Thornton, Sterling Shepard, Trey Tucker, if you're looking for some receiver help. At tight end, see if Brenton Strange is available. See if Isaiah Likely is available. Isaiah Likely practiced last week, did not play for the Baltimore Ravens against the Detroit Lions, but should be inching closer to a return. So, you could do worse as far as if you have Evan Ingram or David Njoku or, another underperformer at tight end, or you're looking for an alternate option. Brenton Strange for this week and Isaiah Likely for weeks 5 through 7 and beyond, potentially, are some tight end options. I don't think I mentioned quarterback. In one quarterback leagues, it's all, it depends on who's available on the wire and what your injury situation is. Matthew Stafford comes to mind. At least he throws the ball to 2 elite options in Puka and Devontae Adams. But, whatever your situation there, we can address on a case-by-case basis. Okay. Talked about injuries. If I missed a major injury, let me know and I can cover it. CeeDee Lamb, Mike Evans, James Conner, Tyrone Tracy, Najee Harris. And then talked about some waiver wire options at a very high level, at a very general level. We'll now take your questions. I will now just quickly go into my spiel. If you've been here before, welcome back. If you're here for the first time, welcome in. Members will get first priority in getting their questions answered. That is a perk of being a member of the channel. If you are interested in becoming a member of the channel, you can find more details in the first link of the description, in the description of this live stream and all videos and streams on the channel. You could also send a super, and that would be a way to get your question prioritized and jump the line. And answered a little faster. Members and supers may also get a little bit more thoroughness in their answer, as being, as a way of me saying thank you for supporting the channel and being a paid customer. If you are not a member and you do not send a super, I will answer your questions, but I do ask for your patience as I, work through member questions and super questions. And again, it is Tuesday. I will entertain start-sit questions, but I may not give them as much attention as I would later in the week. We just don't have all the details and information yet to make definitive calls. Injury reports, practice updates on both sides of the ball, offense and defense, ultimately help determine what we're going to do. when setting our lineups for this week. And then also like quarterbacks that could potentially return from injury make a, you know, they factor into those decisions as well. Jaden Daniels, oh my gosh, Justin Fields, and etc. Brock Purdy. All right, let's get into it. Greg's got a question about running back depth. You have Algier and Rachaad White. Drop one for Hunt, Gordon. I like keeping Algier. He's a very valuable handcuff. And you know, he doesn't have a ton of standalone value, but he's a situational play. He is. Algier can be flexed in matchups, especially at home, where we think the Falcons are going to be winning the game and therefore running the ball a ton in the second half of games. So I'm okay with Algier. Rachaad White, you know, again, if it's a PPR format, he may have gained a little bit of a short-term boost to his value. With the absence of Mike Evans, they need bodies to step up and earn some targets behind Emeka Egbuka, because we don't know if Chris Godwin is coming back yet. He should return soon, but then what does that look like? So, you know, none of these guys are must-grabs for me. Kareem Hunt might be the closest thing. McNichols, Rodriguez, Krosky Merritt, looks like a full-blown committee right now. Krosky Merritt still has the highest upside, but you know, he's battling two other incumbent vets for opportunities, and it's not translating to production. So he has to be left on the bench right now. And, you know, until we see more, Chris Rodriguez, that was his first game this past week. So, you know, I think we need to see a little bit more before we commit to any one of those Washington backs. I do like Woody Marks, like I just mentioned. I think he's got a chance to carve out a solid role, maybe a longer-term one. So I guess I could see swapping Rachaad White with Woody Marks. He's not a guy that we're considering playing right now, but, you know, Houston may find that they are hurting for playmakers and need a little bit of juice on offense. At this point of their respective careers, Woody might have a little bit more burst to his game than Nick Chubb does. And again, if things continue to spiral out, they're going to turn the page to their young guys and see what they have, or that would be the smart thing to do. Woody over Rachaad White, I'm fine with that, but I would continue to hold Algier. Woody Marks, I'm good with. $6, $6, $5, $7, $5, something like that. No more than 10. I don't want to break the bank for a guy that I can't imagine starting for at least the next month, barring injury. But $5 to $7, $5, I would be fine with that for Woody Marks. And the Packers are a rest of season hold for me. They were, if you grabbed the Packers defense, obviously last week it was like, okay, you know, week 3 against Cleveland, I feel good about that, but week 4 against Dallas, that's a bit of a tougher sell. Hey, Dallas is not going to have CD now. Their ceiling as an offense is completely capped. So combined with Micah Parsons' return to Dallas for a primetime game week 4 and the fact that the Cowboys won't have CeeDee Lamb, the Packers, you can play them this week. You can absolutely stream the Packers, and they're not even really a stream. They're just a plug-and-play defense. You can play them against the Cowboys. They're not as intimidating without CeeDee Lamb. And you got to imagine, you know, Micah Parsons is going to want to come in there and put on a show. And even if Dallas sells out to stop him, the Green Bay still has other really good options in their front seven to cause problems and create pressure. So the Week 5 bye stinks for Green Bay, but the glass half full way of looking at that is at least you get the bye week out of the way early, and then as far as I'm concerned, you're starting the Packers from Week 6 onward. Their fantasy playoff schedule looks a little dicey, and I think they've got the Detroit Lions like Week 13 or 14, so maybe we pivot off of them for that week. But I think from like starting Week 4, now that the Cowboys are without CeeDee, get past the Week 5 bye, from Week 6 to like 12, I think they're set and forget. I think they have the Eagles in there as well, but that's a home game, and that's really far off in the future. We'll deal with that when we have to. Yeah, the Packers are a rest of season play, and maybe you shy away from them if CD's healthy, but he's not. He's not. He's not going to play. You can fire up the Packers defense week 4, hold them through the bye week, week 5, and then start them for at least like weeks 6 through 10 or 11. Yeah, I would hold and play the Packers. And glad to hear that the audio is much better. Once again, apologies for the, I tried to hold a start-sit live stream on Sunday leading up to kickoff, and I was having all types of audio issues. So apologies again for that, but I think I got it resolved. Doesn't appear to be a problem because I don't think anybody's called it out. And then as far as my thoughts on the Dart news, I mean, I don't know that it's a panic move from the Giants. They're 0-3, and they're not contenders. And, they wouldn't tell you that they wouldn't tell you that with on the record. But I got to imagine they know. The Giants are not contenders. They're not contenders with Russell Wilson. They're not contenders this season. So they're turning the page. I guess the one thing is Dart better be, for the Giants' sake, this isn't necessarily Dart's fault because it's not his decision, but, he better be ready for, what it takes to be an NFL quarterback. We often see rookies struggle out of the gate, especially in bad situations, and the Giants are a bad situation. Yeah, he's got Malik Neighbors to throw the ball to. That makes life easier for everybody, the entire offense. But, this is a tough spot. This is a tough situation, and they have tough opponents on the schedule starting this week with LA. So if they are willing to take these lumps and growing pains and let Dart learn and let Dart make mistakes and don't crucify him for it, don't expect to be winning games with this roster and a rookie quarterback against this level of competition. Again, look at their schedule. I know they play the Eagles twice in the next 5 or 6 games. Plus the Chargers this week. They've got a couple of tough games on the slate. So, they're moving forward. They're hoping that the future is now, but they better be patient with Dart. They better, don't do the whole short leash thing and put Russ back in if Dart struggles. I mean, I think it makes sense for them to do it, but they are opening themselves up to, you better be willing to take all of the lumps that potentially are coming with starting a rookie quarterback. So, yep. All right, Xavier, we got some injury issues to get through. Lost Kittle, lost CD Lamb. Oh, okay. Well, let me know if is it even worth trading CD? No. I mean, I wouldn't, because you're probably only going to get pennies on the dollar offers. If somebody's willing to pay for CD as if CD was healthy or as if he was returning sooner than later, then sure, fine. If you can get immediate help and, again, solid, legitimate value for a guy who was being drafted as a top 5 or 6 overall pick in one quarterback leagues, then sure, fine. But, if I'm getting just a wide receiver 2 as my offer, it's just I'll look for other moves that I can make. I'm not selling CD, even if I'm 0-3 and maybe feeling the heat a little bit. I'm not selling CD for the sake of getting a warm body for the next couple of weeks. I need comparable value. So you can try. It just depends on what those offers might look like. But I'm not trading CD for a bag of chips, which somebody may try to, that might be their best offer, and it's all right, I'm just going to keep CD. All right, let me move down. Keeping it up. Again, getting through member questions first. Appreciate everybody's patience. But then I will move back to the top. I see everybody's questions. I will get to them. Is Debo? Yeah, I mean, is Debo a start this week? Let's see if Jaden Daniels comes back. I would feel much better about it if Daniels returns. But, you know, if it's another week of Marcus Mariota, who even is the Commanders' week 4 opponent? Not that it much matters. The Atlanta Falcons. All right. I mean, yeah, if Daniels is back, of course. If it's another Mariota start, then yeah, it's going to depend on who your other options are, you know. But we got to see. We got to see if Daniels is back. If Daniels is back, then yes, he is. Maybe Debo is a clear-cut start without Terry McLaurin playing, but again, there's not a ton of conviction with Marcus Mariota as the starting quarterback. My Roshan projection? What was my Roshan projection? I mean, whatever it is. And what's going on? We are family. Good to see you. Yeah, he looks like he's not a factor. He's not involved. He's the emergency third. He's the emergency third running back. I mean, Monangai is taking opportunities ahead of Roshan. I don't think he saw a touch. I don't even know if he saw a snap, even though he was healthy for this past game for Chicago. And they blew out the Cowboys. You would think that, like, some reserves would have gotten into that game for some mop-up duty. He didn't. Roshan hasn't seen the field yet this year. And he was active both week 2 and week 3. Yeah, he might. Maybe he's just cooked. Maybe he's just nothing. Maybe he's just nothing. Maybe it's, Roshan is working his way back from injury and the Bears are taking their time with him and being cautious with him, but he's not getting on the field at all with no injury designation. So maybe he's even a drop in the deepest of leagues. Maybe he's a drop in dynasty leagues as well at this point. I want to get through another couple of weeks before I do anything about Roshan in like deeper leagues, but he's not on the radar in 10, 12, 14 team leagues, and at this point in dynasty leagues with deeper benches, it's getting harder and harder to justify holding him. He's not, it's not even that he's not a factor. He's not anything right now. Quarterbacks that it could be worth nabbing. I mean, the first one that comes to mind is Kirk Cousins. But is Atlanta going to move off of Michael Penix for Kirk Cousins if they feel like they can compete this year and they feel like Penix isn't giving them what they need? He was really bad against Carolina on Sunday. I don't know that Atlanta has designs or desires to go back to Kirk Cousins with Penix. They're hoping that Penix is their future. So I can't imagine they want to go back to Kirk Cousins, but he's still on the roster. If they really were, definitively moving forward with Michael Penix, would the Falcons have been more aggressive to get Cousins off the team and shed any potential conversations about a quarterback competition and get some salary cap relief? Obviously that cap hit made Cousins probably pretty untradeable with the Falcons, depending on how willing they were to eat some salary. But I guess he's the first name. I don't know what compensation we're looking at. Maybe a 4th-round pick, maybe a 3rd if Atlanta's willing to eat some salary. But that's if they definitively want to move forward with Michael Penix. I think they do, but we'll see. Jameis Winston, his name got brought up a couple of weeks ago as a potential trade candidate. The Giants are moving forward with Jackson Dart. Russell Wilson, it could just be like the 36-year-old backup for them. They could trade Jameis Winston. Other than that, I mean, teams are looking to hold their players because they want to compete, and if a quarterback goes down, they want to have a viable option to pivot to. There's only a couple of spots, I think, where it makes sense for a team to consider moving a veteran backup. Atlanta is one. The Giants are another. I don't know if the Jets want to trade Tyrod. If Justin Fields is fully healthy, they could sign another random young quarterback. Yeah, but I think that's easier said than done. Cousins, Tyrod. I don't know. Cousins, Tyrod, Jameis. Yeah. Drew Lock for Seattle. They have Sam Darnold. They drafted Jalen Milroe. A Drew Lock. So this is a start 3, Xavier. So, Keenan is a lock for me at this point. And then we got to see what the practice reports are. Is Jaden Daniels back from practice this week? That boosts Debo. If he's not, then I say maybe start DK and Pollard. If Jaden Daniels is back, maybe start DK and Debo. If Jaden Daniels is out and Terry McLaurin is out, then maybe I say fire up Debo. Keenan Allen is the only slam dunk of this group. I guess DK Metcalf is sort of in that conversation as well, but we got to see practice reports and injury updates before we make any definitive calls. And then we'll go from there. But Keenan Allen, at this point, needs to be in starting lineups for everybody. For everybody. He might be the Chargers wide receiver 1 right now. Yeah. Keenan is a slam dunk, and the rest, let's see. Let's see what happens. What would I take in a trade for Najee and for a 3rd-round pick? Probably. You're not going to get a 2nd-round pick. And Achilles injuries, they ruin running backs. They do. That's the way that it is. I wish it was different. I wish I could say, oh, yeah, running backs come back with a clean bill of health eventually after an Achilles tear, but it's not common. You have to be built different. You have to be one of one. You have to be a superstar at the position to be in the conversation of guys where we will still feel okay about them post Achilles injury. I don't think Najee is in that conversation. So yeah, if you can get a 3rd-round pick for Najee Harris in Dynasty, sure, fine. See if you can make it a 2027 3rd-round pick and add a 2028 4th-round pick for a little extra value. Because then that way you have a little bit more capital in 2027, which, that's the, you could use that as capital to move up to draft Jeremiah Smith if you really want him. You could use that to trade back in 2028 to try to get Underwood if you want him. He's going to be... I'm getting too far ahead of myself years down the line on rookie prospects, but a 27 3rd and a 28 4th. See if you can swing that. If you can't, a 26 or 27 3rd would be fine for me for Najee Harris in Dynasty. Yeah, it's non-superstar running backs who suffer Achilles injuries. It's pretty much like ball game for them, unfortunately. So, sure, I'm fine with getting what you can. What's going on, Nino? Good to see you. Thanks for popping in. Would I suggest putting Fobb in for Brandon McManus? Is the Colts kicker still available? What's that guy's name? I'm the worst. I should know his name. He may already be rostered, but I feel like he's still kind of flying under the radar. I forget his name. Hold on. Schrader? Spencer Schrader? Is he still available? That's the guy that he looks like the dude that's worth he may already be rostered, but he's still only rostered in 35% of sleeper leagues, so he might be out there. I would take, let me know, Greg, if Spencer Schrader is out there. If he's not, then, sure. What is even McManus doing? He's still Denver's kicker? Oh, that's right. He moved to Green Bay. Yeah, I don't have a ton of conviction on Brandon McManus because he's going to miss week 5 anyway. So, I wouldn't spend. If you want to pick up McManus, I wouldn't spend more than $1 or $2 because you're going to drop him anyway for week 5. But let me know if Schrader is still available. Almost missed this one. Sorry, Nino. Should I save my number 1 waiver priority or pick up Fields? Pick up Fields. I would pick up Fields. Dak is droppable. In 1 quarterback leagues, Dak is droppable. Obviously, superflex leagues and deeper leagues, you want to hang on to Dak. But in 1 quarterback leagues, his ceiling is gone for the next couple of weeks. CeeDee Lamb is not going to play. He's going to throw the ball to George Pickens, Jake Ferguson, Jalen Tolbert, and Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders will catch some dump-offs here and there. That is not a supporting cast that I feel strongly about when it comes to firing up a QB1 in a 1 quarterback league. I wouldn't drop Dak for Fields outright before knowing Fields' availability for this week. But I would absolutely pick up Fields and hope that he can return because, yeah, Fields' supporting cast isn't like spectacular top to bottom either, but at least he runs a lot, way more than Dak, and that's what makes him fantasy relevant. So, yeah, I would pick up Fields. I would pick up Fields. But don't drop Dak. If you're picking up Fields, don't drop Dak until Fields is cleared, and then you could drop Dak in theory for another running back or wide receiver. But I would. I know it's a number 1 waiver claim. I know it's expensive. But I don't want to play Dak in 1 quarterback leagues, not right now. And then how confident am I in Benson? I mentioned during, I went over waivers. He's probably not available in most leagues, but I did call out his name as the top waiver wire option in the event that he's available. We'll see. It's his first opportunity as lead back. So, is he an RB2 rest of season? Is he a boring, plodding RB3 rest of season because he's not that good? Is he an RB1 this season? And we just were waiting for the breakout. We needed James Conner out of the way for Trey Benson to emerge. I mean, that's probably the least likely outcome. We'll see. He's going to get his chance. Amari Demercado is just a change of pace option. The Cardinals their backfield, their running game is going to sink or swim with Trey Benson. So we'll see. If I had to guess, maybe he's the RB, let's say somewhere from 17 to 20 rest of season, modestly. Upside for a little bit more if he's good. He'll get his first opportunity Thursday night. We're not going to have to wait that long to see Trey Benson in a starter's role because the Cardinals host the Seattle Seahawks on Thursday Night Football. So we'll see. You got an offer that sends Neighbors and Benson for Jamar Chase and Travion Henderson. Jeez. So you got Neighbors catching passes from a rookie. You got Jamar Chase catching passes from Jake Browning. That did not work out last week. And then you've got Benson, who's in an RB1 role already. And then you've got Travion Henderson, maybe assuming a number 1 role sooner than later. Ramondre Stevenson fumbled the ball twice this past weekend. I think Antonio Gibson also fumbled the ball. So, in theory, Travion Henderson's time is coming, but we don't know to what extent and if it's going to happen as soon as week 4. So, I guess Benson slightly goes ahead. I don't know that I put Travion Henderson below Trey Benson in my season, like my rest of season rankings, but Benson's opportunity is now. Benson's opportunity is now. Travion's is maybe this week, maybe it's week 7. I might just hold what you have, Nino, because as much and I know that sounds crazy because you have the opportunity to acquire Jamar Chase, but if Jake Browning is gonna cap Jamar Chase's upside and cap his ceiling, then it's like kind of a one-for-one swap chase for Neighbors, and then you're giving up Benson, who is the guy now, whereas maybe Henderson will be the guy this week, but maybe it's another couple of weeks. I might just keep what you have and see what it looks like before you trade those pieces. I think I would wait, Nino. I think I would wait. I would hold. Let's see. I know I'm taking some time on questions. Appreciate everybody's patience. I'm excited. My audio is working. It wasn't working on Sunday, and that was and it pissed me off because I couldn't be here to help out for Start Sit Help. So now I'm getting all my long-windedness now. But I'll keep it moving. What's going on, Bobby? RJ Harvey should be on a roster. And Matthew Golden should be on a roster. I would say in order, Bobby, I want RJ Harvey. At running back, I want RJ Harvey. Then I want Woody Marks. Then I want Ollie Gordon. I like Ollie Gordon, but he's firmly behind Devon Achane. Marks, I don't know, is as definitively behind Chubb. I feel like his role could continue to expand with each passing week. He's got an aging Nick Chubb ahead of him. Ollie Gordon has Devon Achane basically in his prime ahead of him. So I think I prefer Marks to Ollie Gordon, but RJ Harvey over both. I know RJ Harvey's not really doing much of anything right now, and J.K. Dobbins looks really good, but it's still early. They spent good capital on Harvey. I'm not giving up, wake me, if Harvey's still doing nothing in week 7, week 8, week 9, okay, fine. Maybe it's just not going to happen this year, but there is still time for Harvey to take over lead back duties. I know that sounds crazy and maybe hard to believe right now, but there is still time for that to take place. So Harvey is the guy that I would want to be picking up. It depends on who you'd be dropping, but whoever your last running back or last wide receiver is on your roster, I can't imagine I'd rather have them more than Harvey. And then Golden would be the guy that I want to grab at wide receiver with Jaden Reed on injured reserve. And probably missing most of the rest of the regular season. Give me those two prominent rookies. Second-round pick in the NFL draft, RJ Harvey. First-round pick in the NFL draft, Matthew Golden. I'll take both of them. Harvey and then Golden in that order. And then Woody Marks. I know Jerry Jeudy's on this list. He should probably be on a roster, but also it hasn't come to fruition for Jeudy so far this year, and the Browns' offense is pretty gross. So, yes, I think Jeudy should be on a roster, but this is actually a situation where I'm not chomping at the bit to add him just because I think he belongs on a roster, if that makes sense. It's just not a good spot. Not a good situation. It's not a good situation now, and Joe Flacco is their best option at quarterback to support fantasy relevant players. I don't know that it's going to get better when we move to Dylan Gabriel or Shador. I would not put a significant waiver claim in, Greg, for any one of those guys. I would wait to pick them up for free after waivers clear because you have Jordan Love this week in a phenomenal matchup against the Cowboys. Jordan Love is probably going to be everybody's start of the week at quarterback. All the big, the big pundits, the ones with the huge followings. Everyone's going to say Jordan Love is the start of the week this week, and that's totally fine. He's in a great matchup. So to that point, yes, his bye week is the following week. I wouldn't spend too much money on a backup quarterback just to look ahead to week 5 because you're not going to play him this week. You're not going to play that quarterback this week. And then really quickly, and then I will go back up to the top of the chat for the non-member questions. Appreciate everybody's patience. If McManus is available, that's fine for this week. Spend $1 or $2 to get McManus. Good matchup against the Cowboys. But if you do not get him, Greg, I don't know. See if Prater's probably not available. I'd have to look at the matchups. But you could throw $1 or $2 on McManus for just this week. That's fine. That's fine. Okay. Back up to the top. Appreciate everybody's patience. Let's get to other general questions. McConkey, Jennings, Godwin. Okay, this is a start sit question. So again, one more time, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on start sit questions today. I do encourage everybody to come back Thursday if you can, or Saturday or Sunday. We don't have practice reports yet. We don't have injury updates yet. I can't make a definitive call in good confidence right now, or in good conscience right now, excuse me, because a practice report or an injury update may make a Tuesday start sit suggestion completely obsolete. So, the answer is I'm going back to the well with Ladd McConkey for one more week before I pull the plug. I know he's been the Chargers wide receiver 3 to this point, but he's still super talented. We drafted him high. It's not like he's been goose egging through the first portion of the season. The touchdowns will come. I know it's not happened yet for McConkey. It's been all Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnston, but McConkey remains involved. He's a big part of their offense. I would rock with him for one more week. Cowboys schedule gets dicey. I haven't looked at it, but they play the Packers this week. That's not great. The Jets aren't the Jets. I don't know. And then the Panthers. That's not too bad. Commanders. That's tougher. Broncos. That's tougher. Yeah, some tougher spots in there. Let's see. Okay, 0-3. 0-3 with some tough spots at running back. Okay. And wide receivers are struggling. You have Bucky, you have CD, you have Tet. So, you are in a situation where you could look to trade CeeDee Lamb to one of the top teams in the league for depth that helps you now, pieces that help you now. And when I say depth, I'm still looking for an RB2 or an RB2 plus a wide receiver 3 or a wide receiver 2 or a couple of wide receiver 2s. I'm still looking for good players, not bargains, like good players for CeeDee Lamb. And those players can help me this week and help me in the, over the next few weeks to try to right the ship. I'm not super enthusiastic about this suggestion, but being 0-3 and with CD dealing with a high ankle sprain, he's not going to help you for at least a couple of weeks. So he might be the guy that you want to move. You may want to move CD to a contender. Well, nobody's really a contender yet. We've only played 3 games. An 0-3 start sucks, but it is something that you can come back from. I would consider dangling CeeDee Lamb out there for running back help. And get a throw-in wide receiver for the heck of it. You can throw in, you could throw in, you have Breece, you have Ramondre, you have Pollard. You're not going to get anything from Ramondre. You could offer CD and Breece or CD and Pollard and get a stud. Get a stud that can help you now. It hurts to trade somebody like CeeDee Lamb, but if you can still get top dollar and a team that's 3-0 or 2-1 with a bunch of points scored, they might be willing to give you fair value for CeeDee Lamb because now they're willing to bet on their team. Their team's off to a good start. They're willing to bet on their team, being there at the end and waiting until the stretch run to have CeeDee Lamb available to them. So they'll give you good pieces now to help your team now. That might be where I go. That might be where I would go. What's going on, Fortune? Good to see you. Is Josh Downs droppable? Yeah, he's droppable. Yeah, he's droppable. He's not giving us anything. I like Josh Downs, and I thought Daniel Jones would be good for him, but you know, it's Tyler Warren, and it's Michael Pittman, and it's Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce did pick up the concussion, so he's probably not going to play Week 4. So maybe there's some added opportunities for Downs in Week 4. But if you need the roster space, sure, we could drop Josh Downs. He's not a must-hold. I like Josh Downs, but we're off to a pretty slow start. So if you need the roster spot, yeah, he's droppable. Yeah, he's not giving anybody anything right now. Because you're not going to trade him. I wouldn't even give you a bag of chips for Josh Downs right now. I'll keep the chips. I like to snack. I get hungry. I like to snack. I want the chips. Josh Downs ain't going to help that. He's not going to help my fantasy team, and he's not going to cure my hunger. So I'm keeping the bag of chips. So yeah, you might as well just drop him. Depending who's available, of course. Okay, I got the question about the 0-3 start. I would look to dangle CD for solid value, and I would specifically target contenders, like the top of the league, 3-0. Give me pieces that help me now for a piece that can help you later. Okay, 3-0, nice start. You have Garrett Wilson and Pearsall. That's good. So the first thing, you're 3-0, so you don't have to panic do anything. 3-0 is you have officially built yourself a cushion for some flexibility, and you've built a margin of error. So you can ride out the storm if you've got some injuries a little bit better than somebody who's 1-2 or 0-3. So there's no panic trades that need to be made. Now, yeah, I mean, Godwin, Calvin Ridley's not off to a very good start, but he should be on a roster at least. Chris Godwin is coming back soon, so yes, these dudes should be picked up. I would pick these guys up, and there's your injury replacements until your guys come back. But there's no panic trading. There's no panic anything when you're 3-0, even when you've got a couple of injuries. 3-0 means I'm more equipped, better equipped to weather that storm than someone who's 1-2 or 0-3. If I'm 1-2 or 0-3 and I have CeeDee Lamb or I have Mike Evans, I am maybe looking to move those guys to get help now. But if I'm 3-0 and I have CeeDee Lamb, then I'm like, all right, I'm not in a rush to address this because I'm 3-0. Even if I lose my next 3 games, obviously nobody wants that to happen. I'm still 500, and CD's back at that point, in all likelihood. So, yeah, you don't need to panic do anything. But I would pick up Chris Godwin, and then Calvin Ridley, and then any one of those guys. Pick your favorite. Amenor, Tucker, Shepard. All of them are viable waiver wire ads. But Godwin and Calvin Ridley, I would prioritize. It's not been great for Ridley to start the season, and Godwin obviously hasn't played yet, but they are high profile. They do have a track record, so I'll suggest those guys as the priority waiver wire ads over those other names. But yeah, if you're 3-0, even if you're 2-1, like you're in good shape. This is how you wanted to start the season. Injuries are going to happen. We want to hold. We want to be patient. When if we have a good record, we want to be patient. All right, where am I at? Zay Flowers and Jordan Addison for Malik Neighbors. If you're getting Neighbors, I mean, yeah. I mean, Neighbors didn't have a great game last week, and I don't know how good Jackson Dart is, but what I do know is Malik Neighbors is a top 5 to 7 wide receiver in the league. So I'll bet on superstar talent every time, even when their situation sucks. Yes. If you can get Malik Neighbors, yes. If you have to settle for Brian Thomas, then maybe just keep Flowers and Addison. But if you can get Malik Neighbors, then I'm doing that. I'm doing that. I am running, not walking, to accept that offer. Yeah. Now's a perfect time. If somebody is really worried about Malik Neighbors, bad performance on Sunday Night Football, and now the Giants are turning to Jackson Dart, this is for everybody. If the person in your league who has Malik Neighbors is a knee-jerk reaction type of guy or girl, type of person, and, will jump at the first concern of something going south or sideways, hit them up. See what it would take to pry Malik Neighbors. If they're that worried about Malik Neighbors, let them be. And then take advantage and see if you can complete a deal. I will bet on talent of Malik Neighbors' caliber 11 times out of 10. 100%. Not Brian Thomas. Just I'll highlight this really quickly. Not Brian Thomas. It's been not good so far. Trevor Lawrence stinks, and Brian Thomas is dropping a lot of passes. It doesn't make for a good recipe. So I'd rather keep Flowers and Addison, especially with Addison returning from suspension. But I'll trade those two for Malik Neighbors in a heartbeat. And then as far as starting Laporta or Kincaid this week, I mean, probably Laporta. Again, start-sit questions are tough to answer on Tuesdays. We got to see practice reports and injury updates. The Lions play the Browns this week. Are the Browns going to be down any starting linebackers? Does Laporta himself pop up on the injury report? The Bills get the Saints. That's pretty damn favorable. But is Kincaid healthy? Is he going to end up on the injury report? Do the Bills need to even throw the ball all that much this week? Because New Orleans, it doesn't take much for a good team to beat a bad team, generally speaking. And New Orleans is, they're the worst team in the NFL right now. So it's kind of a crapshoot. I need to sit on that one and think about it during the week. My first inclination is Laporta, just because we drafted Laporta higher than Kincaid. But, we're getting further and further away from drafts at this point. So draft capital is becoming a little bit more obsolete. But I'm hanging on to it now because while we're still within the first month of the season. I think I got all member questions so far. I do. Keeping it moving. You're in a 2-flex league. I'm in a 2-flex league, and I love the 2-flex league. Currently have 3 running backs and 5 wide receivers. That you would be happy to start. Okay. Would I trade Sutton and Olave or Sutton and Evans for Lamb? If you're 2-1 or 3-0, I would see if Sutton for Lamb straight up would get it done. Actually, I would start with Olave. I assume it won't. That's the type of sell low offer on CD that I would immediately reject. But if I'm buying CeeDee Lamb and someone is willing to settle for Chris Olave to get a healthy player back, then 100% make that happen. I assume that won't be enough. So then I would see if Sutton alone can get it done. I'd also be curious to know who your other wide receivers are because Sutton is coming off of a spectacular performance. But if you can weather the storm, if you're 3-0 or maybe you're even 2-1 with a lot of points scored, and you really like your wide receiver core, and Sutton is expendable as a result, and you can get CeeDee freaking Lamb, then yeah. Or Olave and Evans. I don't think I would do Sutton and Evans because that's, Evans when he comes back is a high tier 2 wide receiver for fantasy. Olave is probably more in like the tier 3 range. Of course, if you keep Evans and acquire CD, then now you're doubling down on injured wide receivers, so that's not great. So maybe Sutton and Evans for CD and some random last guy on their bench just to get an extra piece back in return. But if you have a good record, I'm okay with that. Yeah, I'm okay. I agree, like, having both Evans and CD is a little volatile, so if you can trade Evans and Sutton for CD and another asset, then I would be okay with that. Or Olave and Evans for CD straight up, I might also be okay with. But yeah, sure. Be aggressive acquiring CeeDee Lamb if you can, if you have a good record. This goes for anybody. But don't take on too many injured players. Deep League. Would I prioritize Luther Burden or Torrey Horton, right? For the Seahawks. Horton, here's a who. Burden had a really nice big play on a little flea flicker for the Bears. I don't know how likely. I don't know if that translates to his role is emerging permanently versus this was just a spectacular matchup against a bad Cowboys defense, and to Burden's credit and the Bears over at large, they took advantage. Or if this is just like a, he might go back in the tank for a couple of weeks because he's still a rookie, or if this is a start of things to come. Same with Horton. He's a, 5th round pick who has, 3 touchdowns the past 2 games, figures to continue to get more involved. I guess I would say Burden just because 2nd round NFL draft capital versus 4th or 5th round draft capital for Horton. So by nature, I want the guy that was drafted higher and therefore has the higher expectations. I'll say Burden is who I would prioritize. They're both deep shots, but one is a former 2nd round pick. It just happened this year. One was his team's 2nd round pick. The other was his team's 5th round pick. So I'll chase the draft capital in that situation when looking to pick up a player in a deeper league. And then as far as a quarterback I'd rather have rest of season, I mean, my first inclination is to say Geno. He was really bad Monday night against the Chargers. He was, he was a little bit better, at least from a fantasy output perspective, week 3 against Washington. He has Brock Bowers. He has Jacoby Myers. He can throw the ball to Ashton Genty. Trey Tucker is a big play machine right now. The offensive line is not great, but I think Geno is at least a better quarterback than Trevor Lawrence is. Trevor Lawrence just isn't good. And his receivers are dropping the ball when he does put it where it needs to be, and then he doesn't very frequently put it where it needs to be, or not frequently enough. Geno, I think Geno is my preference. It's crazy. Lawrence probably has the better top to bottom supporting cast. He's not. All he does is leave us wanting more. Like, why, Trevor Lawrence, aren't you better than you were billed as? At least Geno, I think in general in NFL circles, Geno is considered the better quarterback to Trevor Lawrence. So I'll take Geno. Any more? See anything else we got going on? No new updates. No new updates. All right, we're going to keep it moving. Who's the stash in Minnesota? Xavier Scott or Cam Akers or just Scoop McNichols? I would probably just Scoop McNichols. Akers is back with like his third or fourth stint with the team. Scott, I believe, is a rookie. I know he was on the practice squad. Oh, well, if he's a rookie, he's 26 years old. That's pretty. When did this dude? I'm just looking at. Yeah, I know. Xavier Scott. Oh, undrafted from 2023. Okay. So he's probably bounced around on practice squads for like the past couple of years. Yeah. I would just scoop McNichols because Cam Akers, Xavier Scott, they're not going to get that much run with a healthy Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason is the dude until Aaron Jones is able to come back. I do not think Akers or Scott, even if anything did happen to Jordan Mason, I don't think Akers or Scott have any fantasy relevance. At least McNichols is in a full-blown committee and not definitively behind Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt or Rodriguez. At least not right now. That may change, but right now, it's I think a hot hand approach for the Washington backfield. So at least McNichols has a chance to emerge here and there. So I would go in that direction. I would just grab McNichols. Akers, running backs who suffer Achilles injuries, if they're not superstars, generally an Achilles injury wrecks their career. It's pretty much, that feels like that's what happened with Cam Akers. Suffered an Achilles injury while he was still with the Rams. He's not been the same since. And then Scott, I mean, he's bounced around on practice squads for a couple of years. He's going to be a change of pace guy at best. I'll take McNichols. Someone dropped the Vikings defense last week. I bet they're feeling silly right now. They just put up like a 30-burger or 20 some odd points. I mean, they went nuclear against the Bengals. This happened. You picked them up during the week last week. Yeah. One man's trash is another man's treasure. Am I right? I don't know why they would drop the Vikings. The Vikings have a good defense, and I know the Bengals have good pieces on offense, but Jake Browning stinks. So, and they were at home. Nobody's predicting 2 touchdowns, but expect a decent, low-scoring outing at least. Well done. Nicely done. Would I drop Troy Franklin for Trey Tucker? Zach Charbonnet, full participant in practice again on Tuesday. Zach Charbonnet did not play week 3 against the New Orleans Saints. He looks like he will be back week 4 on the short week against Arizona. So he'll be on the flex radar. Will Charbonnet be? Sorry. What did Troy Franklin do this past week? Because through 2 weeks, he was leading the Broncos in wide receiver yards. Franklin, 2 receptions on 4 targets for 8 yards. Yikes. Not great. At least he was out there for 80% of the snaps, but the performance left a lot to be desired. I mean, it's kind of 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other for me with these two. You could keep Trey Tucker, or you could keep Troy Franklin, and that would be fine. You could pick up Trey Tucker, and that would be fine. Both are ancillary options in the pecking order. You figure Franklin's going to usually give way to Cortland Sutton. Tucker's going to normally give way to Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers, but he had a monster game this past week. maybe I keep Troy Franklin. I know Tucker was Tucker like the wide receiver 1 overall this past week, something crazy. I feel like a 3-touchdown performance will do that. If you do it, I wouldn't spend more than a couple of bucks. Yeah, he was the wide receiver 1. But, remember, with Trey Tucker, he was the wide receiver 1 week 3. He was a wide receiver 2 week 1. He was the wide receiver 22, 2 catches, 54 yards, and a touchdown. But then he sandwiched that with a 3-catch, 12-yard outing against the Chargers in week 2. Tough matchup. Did get 8 targets, but didn't do anything with him. Yeah, all right, fine. You could throw a couple bucks, $2 to $3 on Trey Tucker for Troy Franklin. I wouldn't break the bank. I wouldn't go much higher than that. I feel like we'll be playing musical chairs with guys like them all season long, where it's like one week I want one and the other week I want the other. Fortune wants to know, Travis Hunter rest of season. I don't know, Liam Cohen. You need to you tell me what in the world is going on with your offense. Hunter's out there playing about 60% of the snaps. Actually, this past week was his lowest output for snap percentage of the season. He only had played on 53% of the offensive snaps. I know he's getting out there and playing defensive snaps, but he's a part-time player on offense right now. He had 8 targets week 1. He had 6 targets week 2. He had 2 targets week 3. Like, what are we doing here? This is the number 2 overall pick. I know he's supposed to be a two-way player, but he's given them absolutely nothing on offense. And some of that is drops. Some of that is Trevor Lawrence is bad. Some of that is maybe Hunter is taking longer to get acclimated on offense than we thought he would. But also, it's not like Brian Thomas is lighting the world on fire either. I think right now this is just like a bad offense, and I put the blame squarely at the feet of the quarterback and probably to the head coach as well. Liam Cohen is not maximizing his talent, and Trevor Lawrence continues to leave a lot to be desired as a starting quarterback in the National Football League. My thoughts on Travis Hunter is I hope I'm not relying on him. You have to just hold. What would you trade away for Travis Hunter, and what would you trade Travis Hunter for if you're trying to get rid of him? At this point, you'll take anything, but do you really want to just give up? You probably spend a 5th or 6th round pick on the guy. I think you just have to hold and put him on your bench and hope for better days. Unless somebody gives you a usable running back. I don't even know what that would look like. Like, if somebody came to me and offered me Travis Hunter for Bashal Tootin and I had Tootin, I would keep Tootin. I don't know what I would accept for Travis Hunter. But it wouldn't be much. It wouldn't be much. So if you have him, you probably need to hold. And if you don't have him, I mean, you could try to buy low for peanuts, but do you even really want to? What's going on, Sport Dog? Well, congrats on the dub. Happy to have helped. Trey Benson, if he's available, then he's the top guy. He's the top guy on waivers. Spend your priority waiver wire claim on him. If you have FOB, I would say spend half. Spend 50% of your FOB on Trey Benson. If you were the James Conner owner and you didn't handcuff him with Trey Benson and Trey Benson is on waivers, maybe go 60%, 65% of your FOB. Certainly if you don't have FOB, the top waiver claim. Benson is if Trey Benson is available, he's the top waiver ad this week, regardless of need. Because James Conner is not coming back. And glad to hear that the audio is good. What's going on, Evan? Good to see you. Yeah, you're not trading Amon-Ra for Cam Scatabo. No. I mean, if he values Scatabo that highly, then good for him. He can keep Cam Scatabo, and he can keep riding that wave. I will keep Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like, if he doesn't want to do... I understand him not wanting to trade Cam Scatabo for Brian Thomas or Emeka Egbuka, but not Devontae Adams. I wouldn't... If somebody offered me Cam Scatabo for Devontae Adams, I would... And I had Devontae Adams, I would turn that down. So, yeah, let him keep Cam Scatabo. That's fine. I mean, look, Scatabo looks great. He is a guy that you need to put in your lineup for at least the next couple of weeks, however long Tyrone Tracy is out. And honestly, even when he comes back, Cam Scatabo might just be the dude for the Giants at that point. But I'm not trading Amon-Ra to get him. No way. No shot. I wouldn't trade Devontae Adams for him. Brian Thomas, maybe. Maybe. Let's see. Any moves or trades I would make? McCaffrey, Achane, Kamara. Well, you want to get Waddle in your starting lineup over Turpin. And then you had Mike Evans. You have the second most points scored, but you're 0-3. That's insane. Or sorry, that's a whole totally separate question. I'll get to that in a second. I mean, give me some more context here. What's your record? Are you 3-0? Maybe don't do anything. Are you 2-1? Scored a lot of points? Maybe not do anything. Are you 1-2 or 0-3? Then maybe you try to trade Mike Evans to a team that's 2-1 or 3-0 for some help, for somebody that can help you now, for somebody that's healthy now. And I would drop. You have Sam Laporta. I would drop Jonnu Smith for somebody on waivers, a running back, a wide receiver. It doesn't matter to me. But you have Sam Laporta. Jonnu Smith is doing nothing so far. I think he was okay week 1. He hasn't done squat the past couple of weeks. Jonnu Smith is not a hold, especially when you have a guy like Sam Laporta. I would drop Jonnu for, your favorite wide receiver and or running back on the waiver wire. 1-2 record. Okay, so pick up a back or a wide receiver. Depending on who's available. And drop Jonnu. You don't need Jonnu. And then I would dangle Mike Evans. I wouldn't panic sell. Don't sell for pennies. But I would look to move Mike Evans for somebody, maybe a wide receiver, that can help you now. That can help you in week 4 and week 5 and week 6 when Mike Evans is probably not going to help you. Definitely not helping you this week or next week, and possibly not, for a couple weeks after that. Get somebody who can help you now. Trade him to a team that has a 2-1 or 3-0 record, and get some immediate help. That's what I would do. And drop Jonnu for any backer receiver. Don't care who. Yeah, I had a very similar situation to you last year. And it was among the most infuriating situations I can recall having. I was 0-3, and I don't think I had second most, but I had third most points scored. And then I had Nico Collins and last year, and he got hurt, and I think I had Olave and he got hurt, and it all went to hell after that. I lost a bunch of games. I think I went from being the third most points scored and 0-3 to the 6th most points scored and 1-8, and I was just like, I'm done with this league. I'm not paying attention anymore. This season is over. Hopefully that doesn't happen to you, but I empathize. This happened to me just last year. This is a rare situation where I would say, I mean, if you haven't suffered a whole lot of injuries, I know it's probably like a tough pill to swallow, but maybe don't do anything. You built a good team. You've just had some garbage luck. There's nothing anybody can do about that. There's nothing, you know, the head-to-head matchups and what the fantasy gods want to happen every single week is completely random. If you haven't suffered any significant injuries, though, if you have the 2nd most points scored, I wouldn't do anything. There's still time for you to bounce back. If you have, you know, if you're top 3 in points scored, you have a good team. Your record might not indicate that, but you're competing. You're out there. You are competitive. If I can look at the rest of the league and say, I would have beaten 7 or 8 other teams this week, I just got the short end of the stick with the matchup, I don't want to panic. I'm going to try really hard not to panic because my team is already scoring points. You know? I'm sorry to hear about the 0-3 record, though. It sounds like you built a good squad if you've scored that many points. So there's definitely still time for you to right that ship. You used Mariota last week. That worked out. Just keep Mariota. Who's your starter? Who's your usual starter? I don't know who your usual starter is, but just keep Mariota. They get the Falcons this week. The Falcons just got waxed 30-0 by the Carolina Panthers. You could just if Daniels is back, then sure, drop Mariota, but we don't know that yet. So in the meantime, I would hold Mariota. I would hold Mariota until we know for sure that Jaden Daniels is going to play. We don't know how serious it is. We don't know what the likelihood is unless there's been an update that I missed. I'll take a look at Jaden Daniels really quick. What's the word? Still considered day-to-day. Does not yet have a practice plan set in stone. This was yesterday. Yeah, no, don't drop if you have Mariota, don't drop him. Oh, and you have Jaden Daniels. Definitely don't drop him. Definitely don't drop him. Just hold Mariota. Just keep him. Keep him and play him if Jaden Daniels is out. If Jaden Daniels is back and he's off the injury report, then you can drop Mariota for either a running back or a wide receiver. But for as long as Jaden Daniels is missing practice and on the injury report, just keep Mariota. Like, you have the direct backup. And he did well. For fantasy, he played very well this past week. And he gets another good matchup this week if he has to go against Atlanta. Yeah, Trevor Lawrence is See, here's the thing. I don't know that they can move on from him because they paid him so much money. Now I'm curious, what's Trevor Lawrence's dead cap hit right now? We're going to go to Spotrac. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it looks at NFL contracts and looks at them on a year-by-year basis. Got a cap hit of $17 million this year. He's got Trevor Lawrence has a dead cap. Oh, my God. Are you ready for this? Are you guys ready for this? Trevor Lawrence, take this year out. Forget this year. Let's not even talk about 2020. 26. Lawrence will be 27 years old. He has a cap hit of $24 million. He has a dead cap hit of $88.5 million. That means if the Jacksonville Jaguars cut Trevor Lawrence, they would have to pay him $88 million for him to not play for the team, and that would hamper what they can do with the salary cap that season and potentially in future seasons. They might not be able to move on from him at all until at least 2028. Holy hell, that's so... This might go This might go down as like the current worst contract in the NFL. Trevor Lawrence's contract might be the worst in the NFL. His dead cap hit doesn't come below $10 million until 2028, and that is when the team has a potential out. Yikes. Have fun with that, Jacksonville. Really quickly, jumping down to member question. Sport Dogs got Butte, London. Okay, who would I cut to pick up Benson? Kayshawn. Kayshawn Booty. You have London, you have Pickens, you have J-Mo, you have Keenan Allen, you have, or I guess I would keep Stevenson for some running back depth. I would drop Kayshawn Booty, and I would not think twice. Yeah, put a waiver claim in for Trey Benson to drop Kayshawn Booty and hope for the best. 100%. 100%. Kayshawn looks good. I don't think he was super involved this past week, but he's expendable to add a player of like Trey Benson. Yep. Yeah, Trey Benson should be rostered everywhere after this week. Grade the trade. You traded Egbuka and Mason for CeeDee Lamb. You have Achane, Kyron, Hampton at running back. That's good. You have Nico, Tet, McLaurin, Pearsall, Ridley. And you're 2-1. So you're taking a short-term hit for a potential long-term gain. I don't mind that in and of itself. I don't mind that. I would have tried to get a depth piece back in return to at least give me a healthy player, a current healthy player, because Egbuka looks really good. And his role's not going anywhere, even if Chris Godwin comes back, because now Mike Evans is going to miss a couple of weeks. And Mason is primed for a bell cow role for probably, the next month? So it was a steep price. You paid market value for a healthy CD. Maybe a little under market value for a healthy CD. Obviously, CD's not healthy. So I guess I would say that's it's a very fair offer. It was a pretty generous offer, I think, to give up those two players for CD, and you're not going to be able to use CD for a couple of weeks. That being said, you do have the depth to weather the storm. Achane, Kyron, Hampton is nice. Nico, Tet, Pearsall is nice. McLaurin and Ridley are kind of meh right now, but at least they're decent wide receiver depth. And then you get CD in theory, let's say 2 or 3 weeks from now. I am okay with it. I'm okay with the trade. I'm fine with the trade, and I'm totally fine with being aggressive and swinging for the fences. I would have preferred, if I were you, I maybe would have asked for, give me the last guy on your bench, and I get to make the decision if I drop that player or not. Just give me, something extra. Give me your running back 5 or your wide receiver 6, just to make it an even 2-for-2 swap, because I am giving you 2 good, healthy players right now for a very good but injured player. So give me some random scrap at the end of the bench just to make it an even 2-for-2. But I don't mind the swing to be aggressive. I don't mind that. And if you have an open roster spot now because you traded 2 players for 1, I would add whoever the best option is at running back on the waiver wire to try to help supplant the loss of Mason. The trade of Mason, I should say. My next live this week is Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern, ahead of Thursday Night Football. And then I'll be live on Saturday, 5 p.m. Eastern for start-sit help and 11 a.m. Eastern on Sunday. So 3 more streams this week. Let's keep it moving. Does Keenan Allen keep up with his target volume? I don't see why not. I mean, he looks like... First of all, Justin Herbert is awesome. He looks like he can support 3 fantasy-relevant wide receivers. So even if Keenan Allen doesn't keep up, let's say the touchdowns slow down a little bit. He has 3 in 3 games. Let's say that slows down a little bit. Maybe he scores a touchdown every other game. Because Ladd McConkey starts picking up a score here and there. He's still going to have flex appeal every week for the rest of the season. The Chargers are opening it up on offense. They're probably not going to run the ball as much as maybe even with the new projections that we have for the Chargers offense as far as they're pass happy and pass heavy. They may go even more pass heavy because they have a hole in their backfield with the loss of Najee Harris. I mean, yeah, I think it's sustainable. I do. I think all 3 wide receivers are sustainable until further notice. Go figure. The one who's most disappointing is Ladd McConkey, and he's not. It's not like he's completely killing you. Obviously, he's not doing great. You expect 15-plus points from a second-round pick, but at least he's regularly involved, and the touchdowns will come. The touchdowns are not going to go to Quentin Johnston and Keenan Allen all year long. Ladd's going to get some of those. But Keenan Allen looks great. Quentin Johnston looks great. Justin Herbert looks great. This offense in general looks awesome. And they may throw the ball even more with the loss of Najee Harris. So, yeah, I mean, Keenan Allen should be in starting lineups everywhere. Everywhere. Like, even in 8-team leagues, Keenan Allen is startable. If you had CeeDee Lamb, if you had Mike Evans, James Conner in the flex. Depth guys like Tyron Tracy goes down. Najee Harris goes down. Keenan Allen can be started in shallow leagues on top of deep leagues. Yeah. Chargers wide receivers look great right now. They look awesome. Trade Chase Brown away for Scattaboo. No, that's not crazy. I'll do you one better. Can you squeeze like a depth wide receiver out of that deal just based off of Chase Brown's name recognition? Not only do I not think it's crazy, I'll join the crazy. I'll go a step further. Can you get like a wide receiver 4 or 5 and sell on Chase Brown on his name to get Scattaboo? Because you can twist it like, oh yeah, well Scattaboo looked great and he's going to be the bell cow for the next couple of weeks, but Tyrone Tracy's coming back. He's not gone for the season like Najee Harris or James Conner. Tyrone Tracy's going to come back. He's going to cut into Scattaboo's role. There's nobody there for Chase Brown. Samaje Perine and Taj Brooks are not cutting into Chase Brown's workload. Like, this is how you can spin it. This is how you can mold the trade conversation. Give me that little extra piece, or I'll give you Chase Brown for Chase Brown and my wide receiver 5 for Scattaboo and your wide receiver 3 or 4. It might be aggressive. You may be told to kick rocks, but that's the beauty of trade negotiations. You can always go back and revisit them. If you're asking for too much at first, we can always come back and see what's doable after you ask. It doesn't hurt to ask. No, you're not crazy. I'm crazy. I'll take the crazy. I'm telling you, use those words, use those talking points, and see if you can swindle a little extra out of it. Chase Brown was a second-round pick. Great offense. I know Joe Burrow's not there, but he's going to get all the volume. Scattaboo's going to have to share the backfield with Tyrone Tracy eventually. You can spin it that way. Give me Scattaboo and your wide receiver 3, and I'll give you Chase Brown and my wide receiver 5. The worst they can say is no. And then if they say no, yeah, I might do that 1-for-1 swap. Because I agree. Chase Brown doesn't pass the eye test without Joe Burrow. And Scattaboo looks really good. So I'm totally fine with that. And you got offered McBride for Sutton. That answer for me is immediately no, because I see you have CeeDee Lamb. So you just lost your wide receiver one. You have Nico, that's cool. You have London, he's been meh. You have Pearsall, he's been good. No, I would not do McBride for Sutton since you already have Joel. You just lost CeeDee Lamb. You need your wide receivers. You don't want to be in the business of trading wide receivers after you just lost your best one for at least a few weeks. So no, I'm just keeping Juwan Johnson, and I'll revisit that deal when CeeDee is healthy. Or, on the flip side, you could offer Juwan Johnson and, I don't know, maybe London for McBride to get off of Juwan and upgrade at tight end. But I wouldn't do a wide receiver. And then in that deal, you could ask for a wide receiver in return just to get some extra depth. But no, I would not do Sutton for McBride if you have CeeDee Lamb, not straight up, because you just lost CeeDee. You don't want to trade another wide receiver away. Okay. There's a couple other questions in the chat that I will get to, but Evan just asked a question. Again, if you are a member of the channel, that is one of the perks is getting your questions answered in priority order and jumping the line. One more time, if you are interested in becoming a member, those details can be found in the first link in the description of this live stream. What will Igbokwe average with Evans out? I mean, I would if Godwin is back the same, if Godwin needs more time, maybe a little bit more. Like, we have to take we have to take in consideration both sides of this coin. On one hand, yes, Igbokwe should see more usage. On the other hand, he's also going to see more attention from opposing defenses, opposing defensive coordinators. If Mike Evans is not going to play week 4. If Chris Godwin is also out week 4 and it's Emeka Igbokwe and Sterling Shepard as Tampa's wide receivers, pretty sure, we could expect Vic Fangio and the Philadelphia Eagles defense to key on Emeka Igbokwe. They will have more resources to double him if they don't have to worry about Mike Evans or Chris Godwin. So, I would say like a little bit more. If he's averaging 10 points now, maybe he goes up to 12 or 13 without Evans and Godwin. Maybe it stays the same with a healthy Godwin. Yeah. More usage, more targets, more opportunities, but also more attention from the opposing defense. We have to keep that in mind. But look, he's going to keep producing. He looks the part already. He's probably going to end up finishing the year as the Bucs' top target earner. Just, Godwin missing the first part of the season, and now Evans missing this kind of beginning middle stretch of the season. Igbokwe's going to probably lead the team in targets. So, yeah, we're going to continue to go back to him each week. Going to be the primary target earner, especially when at least one of Evans or Godwin are out of the lineup, which we know is going to be the case for at least the next couple of weeks. Okay. Let's see. Buy low trade targets that you should trade for. So again, what's your record? Buy low or trade targets are different for teams that are 3-0 or 2-1 than they might be if you're 1-2 and 0-3. If you've scored a ton of points but you have a bad record, maybe you don't do anything. Maybe you just weather the storm and believe in your team that you built because the points have been scored. You've just been, on the wrong end of some bad luck. But 3-0. You've got some really good wide receivers. Pickens just elevated to a wide receiver 1 role for his team for at least the next couple of weeks. You know, you have a top 2 or 3 running back in James Cook. You have really good depth in Jacobs, Mason, Benson, and Charbonnet. I'm not trying to sound lazy. I really wouldn't do anything here. Maybe you move off of Mahomes because Mahomes is kind of a tough guy to trust. With a skeleton crew at wide receiver. But even then, I mean, Xavier Worthy's going to come back. Rashee Rice is going to come back. So he should, in theory, be fine by week 7 or week 8. So maybe you just kind of weather the storm on Mahomes as well. I mean, buy low trade targets. No, not. I think you've got... you've got an anchor at St. Brown. You've got great depth at wide receiver in Sutton, Tyreek, and Pickens. And then same deal. You've got an anchor at running back in Cook and great depth in Jacobs, Mason, and Benson. I mean, it's a really good team. I don't think there's anything you have to worry about. I think you could put your favorite TV show on tonight and sit back and chill instead of worrying about waivers. It's a good squad. I wouldn't, obviously always do your due diligence, always do your homework. If there was one potential ticking time bomb here, maybe it's Tyreek Hill. But even Tyreek Hill, even in a bad case scenario, he's a trade candidate. If the Dolphins season spirals out, he's a trade candidate to a better situation. And then you're going to be really happy that you have him. I wouldn't be too worried here. That's a really good squad. I would say if there's one, here's what I'll say, and then I'll move on. You're 3-0. This is a good squad. Go look at the bottom teams in the league. Who's their best player? Offer some ancillary guys. Like, you could absolutely use Trey Benson and a depth wide receiver right now to target, say, CeeDee Lamb or Mike Evans. And then you can stash those guys, wait for them to get healthy. Even in a worst case scenario where you lose a couple of games here, you're still going to be a game over 500 with a loaded roster. You could do that. You could do that. I would look at the teams in your league. If you're 3-0, this is for anybody. This is for anybody. If you're 3-0 or 2-1 or maybe even 1-2, but you've got a lot of points scored, go look at who's at the bottom of your league and in desperate need of help and see if you can use a couple of depth pieces that you have to poach one of their better players. Or an injured guy who you can wait on because you're 3-0. You've built a nice buffer for yourself. You've built a margin for error for yourself, a solid margin of error for yourself. And now you can absorb an injured player and wait on that guy to come back. And on the flip side, if you're 1-2 and or 0-3 and you're kind of struggling along and things aren't working so well and you've got injured players, trade those dudes for players who can help you now. So that would be my suggestion. If you're 3-0, go look at the bottom of the league. Find a team that maybe if determine what is the weakness of your team, see if what they have can address the weakness of your team, and see if you can come to an agreement on negotiation to fill that gap, to fill that hole on your team. Yeah. I mean, I'm a big proponent of this time of the year, the top of the league and the bottom of the league should be talking to each other because they are the situations that are most likely mutually beneficial. It's not about winning a trade. It's about making your team better. nobody's asked me today, oh, did I win this trade? But I've gotten that question before. And respectfully, I don't like that question. It's not about, I don't care if you won the trade. I care if you make your team better. There is a difference. So, yeah. Igbuka's average. Did I sell him short at 10? I mean, I should know. I have Igbuka freaking in so many different places. But yeah, I mean, it could climb to, 18, 19 points that he averages in PPR leagues. Yeah, Igbuka looks like the real deal. He looks great. And more opportunities. More opportunities are headed his way in all likelihood. And side note, I like the point per first down scoring. Big fan of that of that scoring setting. All right. Need to improve at wide receiver. You have Tyreek, you have Saquon, you have Terry, you have Saquon, you have McCaffrey. Dan, you have Saquon and Christian McCaffrey? Holy hell. I mean, I don't want to tell you to trade Christian McCaffrey or Saquon Barkley, but if you really want a stud wide receiver, that's your ticket. Jaylen Warren could also be used, but he's really good depth. He's really good running back depth. So again, is this an 0-3 team or a 1-2 team? I don't remember. If this is like a 1-2 team or an 0-3 team, then you may want to be a little bit more, you may want to have a little bit more urgency. But if it's a, if you're 3-0 or 2-1, I might wait. I might see if Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt can put a solid performance out there. And then that way you've got an extra trade chip that you could dangle to an RB needy team to get a wide receiver. I don't want to trade McCaffrey. I don't want to trade Saquon. You're 2-1. I think I would wait. I can't in good conscience tell you to trade Christian McCaffrey because you would need Puka. I would need Puka. And then and Puka's awesome, but do I really want to trade Christian McCaffrey for Puka? I don't know that Saquon gets it done for Puka. Puka's like wide receiver 1. At present, I have Puka as wide receiver 1 rest of season, just FYI. Jamar Chase, not without Joe Burrow. Justin Jefferson, current quarterback situation, mess. CeeDee Lamb, high ankle sprain. I mean, or Amon-Ra St. Brown is like, if I could get Puka for McCaffrey or Amon-Ra for Saquon, like, all right, okay, fine. But, like, do I even really want to do that? I don't know how strongly I would push for that. You're getting a stud for a stud, but running back depth can dry up so quickly and so much more easily than wide receivers, generally speaking. So I don't necessarily want to trade my horses at running back. I would wait. Because you have Tyreek. He's been good the past couple of weeks. You can play DK. You can play Kupp if McLaurin is hurt this week or can't play. DK's probably the guy. And then you have Jaylen Warren. Like, your running back depth is strong. The key here is Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt. If Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt can put a good game out there, put up a good fantasy performance, now you have, like, at least for that week, 4 viable running backs. You could then dangle Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt to a team that needs a running back that has wide receivers. I would be patient. Obviously, you're 2-1. You want to go to 3-1. You don't want to fall to 2-2. But you're in a perfectly fine spot. You're okay. I would wait. I would see if Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt can emerge By the way, I'm not calling him Bill again until he shows us something real in an actual game. He can be called Bill when he earns that back. Let's see if Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt can emerge over the next week or two, get his trade value up, and you could move him for another wide receiver. That's what I would be looking to do. But otherwise, I would wait. I don't see any more ticker updates. Yeah, okay. Nothing else jumping out. Might be all I have for today. I'll hang on for a bit longer in case anybody needs anything, especially considering I was not available for you guys on Sunday. But just as a recap, I will be back on the mic on Thursday, ahead of Thursday Night Football, 6 p.m. Eastern. We will have a round of practice reports and injury updates. We'll have 2 rounds, Wednesday and Thursday, for practice reports and injury updates and all that good stuff. So start-sit questions can absolutely start flowing in, especially if they pertain to Cardinals Seahawks. I don't know that there's anybody in that game. I mean, Marvin Harrison maybe is like a do I start him or do I not start him situation, depending on your other options. But start-sit help can start taking a look at that on Thursday. And then again, start-sit streams this weekend. Saturday, 5 p.m. Eastern, Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern, leading up to kickoff. I will be available those 3 more times this week. Got anything else? Anything else rest of for the rest of today? I don't think so. Sutton for Igbuka. Slight edge to Sutton. Evan, I would go slight edge to Sutton. Igbuka's awesome, but I'm pretty sure I can confidently say Cortland Sutton will be the Broncos wide receiver 1 all season long. If and when, it might not be for another few weeks, but when Mike Evans is healthy and Chris Godwin is reacclimated into the lineup and Emeka Egbuka is out there and all 3 are involved and healthy and active for the team, we don't know what that target distribution is going to look like. There's a little bit more of a gray area there as far as, is Egbuka going to still be the team's wide receiver 1 when Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are both back? I don't think we have those questions with Cortland Sutton. So, is Egbuka more exciting? Yeah, of course. It's always super fun when a rookie bursts onto the scene and is an immediate contributor, makes an immediate impact. But Sutton is the Broncos' clear-cut wide receiver 1. I do not think there is a wide receiver on the depth chart that can challenge him for that status. And while Egbuka's off to a great start and Evans and Godwin are older, they have done it at a high level for a really long time, both of them, and could easily be the team's target leader any given week, that all three are healthy. So, given the uncertainty of how much of a hold Igbokwe has on the top, the top target earning spot when everybody's healthy in Tampa Bay, I would prefer Sutton slightly for Igbokwe. Slightly. Was that the final question, or we got another one? We got another one coming up, because I can definitely, I've got time for a little bit more if anybody needs it. The Igbokwe owner doesn't want to trade him to you straight up. Well, I would rather have Sutton, and Igbokwe's great. I have Igbokwe in numerous situations. I'm quite happy with him, but I would probably give him up for Sutton if that offer came to me. If they don't want to do it, then stay put. I wouldn't offer more. You know, we all have our guys there, unless you can make it a 2 for 2. But I wouldn't make it a 2 for 1 in any way, shape, or form, because I would rather have Sutton. He's fun. He's awesome. Igbokwe's great. There is no guarantee he maintains a hold of the top target earning role when everybody's healthy for Tampa Bay. I feel much stronger that Sutton will hold that role down all season long for the Denver Broncos. So, you know, I get, if you want Igbokwe and you're off and you believe in him, you believe in the talent, you think he's awesome. I mean, he looks awesome. He is awesome. And you want to try to get him and you're willing to give Sutton for him, and the guy says no, I would just say, I would press pause on that. I would say, okay, I tried. I gave it my best effort. I don't want to overpay for anybody. That's that. Because I would personally rather have, it's close. It's not, the gap is not wide, but I would rather have Sutton. I would rather have Sutton. Yeah. All right. We are at the end of the chat. Appreciate everybody's patience as I worked my way through all of the questions. I think that will do it for me this evening. But one more time, I will be back on Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern, hanging out with you guys ahead of Cardinals Seahawks. So any injury developments that take place over the next 48 hours, we can talk shop on. If there's any trade negotiations that you have going on, we can talk shop on. Any general vibes, any general thoughts about anything in particular. Anything's on the table, as always. At least as it pertains to fantasy football, when I step on the mic. Special shout out to all the members that I saw today, and I saw quite a few. I saw Greg, I saw Crumply Heads, I saw Xavier for the first time this year. That was great. I saw We Are Family. I saw Nino. Let's see. Who else did I see? I saw Bobby. I saw Fortune. I saw Sport Dog, and I saw Evan. Thank you all for coming in and hanging out today. And then everybody in general, appreciate you guys taking the time, thinking enough to spend some time with me this evening, whether it was for a minute or 10 minutes or the whole 2 hours. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for the time and the support. But I think that will do it for me this evening. Again, 6 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. I will be back talking shop ahead of Thursday night football. Thanks, everybody. Any other questions that I missed, feel free to leave them in the form of a comment on this video, and I will get to them. Again, membership details, first link in the description of this live stream. You can also hit me up on Discord if you're not a member of it. Second link in the description of this live stream. That is an evergreen invite and free to join. I try to be active over there. But you can join over there and ask questions and make comments over there as well. Thanks, everybody. I will see you Thursday.